Next, he's one of the UK's most successful comedy writers, behind massive hits like Father Ted and The It Crowd. But Graham Linehan says he's been cancelled because of his controversial views on sex and gender issues. Graham believes if you are born a man, you cannot just get up one day and call yourself a woman. But these days, some people think that is a highly controversial thing to say. In a rare TV interview, rare because he says no one will speak to him now, Graham talks about how his life has been destroyed. He says he's lost everything, his marriage, his plans for a Father Ted musical, everything. I asked him why he felt the debate has become so toxic.
Well, you know, there's no conspiracy here. What we have here is a kind of a naturally arising movement that unfortunately is just completely toxic. It's a combination of people who, you know, young teenagers who are confused, who are unhappy and are looking for answers, but also, unfortunately, a huge army of trolls and misogynists and men's rights activists and incels and predators and all sorts of different types who have glommed on to trans rights because it gives them a cover for them to do other things.
And just to be clear with the audience, Graham, what this is about, this whole central debate is about whether what you are born defines what you are, whether you're male or female, or that you cannot be defined by what's between your legs.
The kind of luxury beliefs that people hold at the moment, that you can change sex, that if you change your pronouns, or if you even say, I am trans, then that actually automatically does something to your... well, I'm not sure what the argument is. It seems to be that there's a kind of gendered soul that lives within all of us, and sometimes it matches up with our body and sometimes it doesn't. I don't believe in souls. I don't believe in gender. I believe we are either male or female.
It's also extremely important if you are someone who genuinely feels that you are born in the wrong body. It's also extremely important if you've considered that throughout your life, you've got counselling, you in a thoughtful way want to be your own person in this world, and you don't want to be told by someone else that you have no right to describe yourself as a male, a female. Who cares? As long as you're happy. Why does this irk you?
Because it hurts women. If you find you're in a position where your elderly grandmother, say, is going into a home and you are not allowed to ask for a female carer, that hurts women.
But if there was someone through their own lived experience, they were born a male, but they would prefer to be addressed as a woman, would you not want to do that in order for them to feel comfortable in this world? Would you not want to be respectful?
Well, yeah, and I am in private. But at the moment, unfortunately, the politicization of this issue means that I cannot really observe pronouns and things like that while this is going on. This is a war on women. Like, for me, absolutely, I think that people who are uncomfortable in their bodies, who have gender dysphoria, which we must remember, that's what this is supposed to be about, people who have gender dysphoria. They absolutely need the best medical help we can get. It's a terribly debilitating thing to have. But what is being proposed, not by trans people, but by trans activists, which are a very different group, is that we respect every single person who says, and literally just says, I am trans. And for me, at the moment, the most important consideration, there's two really. One is the safety of children, and one is the erosion of women's rights. And women's rights are being devastated at the moment by this. You only have to look at Leah Thomas on the women's swim team, who if Leah Thomas stands in front of one of his competitors or one of his the players on his team, you can't see them. He's so big. His shoulders spread around him, so you cannot see these people. He's a huge man. He wins his races by about 40 seconds. The other women in the race are racing for second place. What kind of a lesson is that to give to young girls? I don't understand why more people aren't up in arms about this.
Gender identity as a woman, Graham.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's a man with long hair, Stephen. You know that, you've seen pictures of him. It's a man with long hair. I don't understand why we're all pretending not to know this.
So tell me your story. What has happened to you with Father Ted the Musical?
Well, my original bet was that the TED musical was too big to fail. I simply thought, if they come after it, then that'll be good, because then people will see how crazy this is, how absurd and how censorious, how anti-female, how homophobic that this movement is. So I kind of thought it would be okay, but the more time passed, I was standing up. I was trying to explain myself as clearly as possible. When they couldn't come for me, they came for my wife. They released my wife's address online. They sent the police to my home. The police have been to my house several times. I'm living in a flat now because eventually the pressure of all this drove my wife and I apart, and we divorced.
Because of this?
Yes.
And in terms of Father Ted the musical, had you got that to a stage, Graham, where the industry was interested in it and were backing it and then pulled out? Or what stage did you get that to?
We've done full rehearsals of it twice. Neil Hannon has written some of the best music you'll ever hear. We have songs for every character. We have a great story. It was ready to go. And just because a group of people have decided that anyone who speaks up against this ideology is evil, they've just kind of rolled over for those people. No one is standing up for me.
How much does it hurt?
Well, I'm used to it. After 5 years, not one of my friends spoke up. Not one of my friends said in the showbiz. Where I often joke, I used to know no one except people in show business, and now I know no one in show business and loads of people outside of it. So I know social work. As I say, I know people from all walks of life. But my celebrity friends, comedians, intellectuals who have an opinion on everything else under the sun except this subject, they just said to stay silent. And all it needs is just a few adults to step into the room and say, hang on a second, he's not saying anything particularly controversial. Why is he so toxic?
You say you're going to, you've decided to fight this, but it must feel like a lonely place, and it must hurt, and it must mess you up.
Yeah. They took everything from me,
Like what? What do you mean?
They took my family, Before this, all I was doing was, writing comedy and playing board games and being silly on the internet. And then I just said, no, hang on a sec. Stop calling these women TERFs. Stop sending them abuse. Let them speak. And for that, they just destroyed me.
Do you honestly feel destroyed?
No, because the one thing about this that keeps me going is that I know I'm right. I know I'm right. I see things. When you open up a newspaper and you see the words used, as I have many a time, about sexual offenders who have suddenly decided they're women, and the word "her penis" comes up. Well, every time I see something like that, I just think, well, I'm right and everyone else is wrong. I mean, it's a very strange position for me to be in. It's the opposite position to the one I've been in for my whole life. But in this particular case, I got to say, sex is important. Women are real. Women's language is important. Women need words like women to describe themselves. These are all just basic things.
Can I ask you a personal question? You say that this destroyed your relationship with your wife. How did you two not bond together? How did this not keep you close if someone was attacking you and you love each other?
I don't want to go too much into that, because that's like, all I'll say is that it's very frightening when people start coming after you, when people start digging up stuff about you. And like, I'll tell you, can I answer that a different way? I'll tell you why other comedians won't stand up for me, even if they agree with me. Every comedian at the moment is living under a kind of state of permanent blackmail. Every comedian knows that if they step on the wrong side of any particular line, it could be this or it could be any other number of things. There's a few hot button issues where you have to follow a certain line, and if you don't, you'll be destroyed. I mean, I've been thoroughly cancelled, Stephen. I'll tell you how cancelled I am. There were 2 programs called Cancelled, and I wasn't on either of them. You know what I mean? That's how cancelled I am. I do believe, Stephen, we will look back at this time and we will go, how did we get so insane? You know, like, how did the whole world believe that J.K. Rowling was a bigot, despite no evidence being presented to that end? You know? And I think, and I genuinely think, and I've said this before, but I genuinely think that this is the first serious mass delusion spread by the internet. I think it's spread by the internet. Kids spread it to each other. You may have heard the phrase rapid onset gender dysphoria.
But you know how insulting what you've said will be to some trans people. You know that. Which
that I've said?
Mass delusion. It's real for them.
No, well, no, hold on a second. I'm not saying that about trans people. I'm saying that about society as a whole. For me, as I say, I know a lot of trans people who are just as shocked by this stuff. And they're terrified that there's going to be a backlash against trans people.
Come to the end of this interview. I'm desperate to ask you why you feel really that this is worth it. If you rationally look at what you are giving away to fight for this cause, you're giving away your career, your relationship's gone, your financial stability is gone, your friends, you say, are gone. How on earth is this worth it?
because sometimes something is so wrong that you have to say something. And if I didn't say something, I'd go mad.
And do you not have your friends, your lifelong friends, standing by you?
Well, no. I mean, you know, look, the thing is, you can't ring round people and ask them to be brave. You know, I did do a version of that where I rang up a bunch of people and I said to them, look, would you sign? We had a letter supporting J.K. Rowling in the face of death and rape threats. And we said, would you, I rang up various people I knew. I thought surely this will rouse them, you know? And I rang all these people and every single one of them said no, you know? And all it would take would be a few people with courage to stand up and say, hang on a sec, we need to talk about this without people losing their livelihoods. We need to be able to discuss this in an adult way.
You're telling me they wouldn't sign a letter to say death and rape threats were wrong?
Yeah.
That is extraordinary, Graham.
I know. Like, one of the other things about this whole thing is that it is a failure of, you know, intellectuals of you know, I mean, I actually class comedians pretty highly because I think comedians think about stuff in interesting ways. But it's a failure of comedy. It's a failure of journalism because journalists are openly hiding the truth.
What I can share from my experience of making a 10-part podcast on this, along with David Thompson from the Nolan team, is that there was very much a division of opinion, but there were people within the BBC, within the organisation I work for, an organisation where the whole meaning of it at its core is to speak up, to speak out. And there were quite significant senior people within the BBC contacted me confidentially, frightened to speak up about this subject, frightened to express an opinion. The vast majority of them, female journalists, frightened to even speak about it.
Yes, that's and isn't it relevant that it's women, female journalists who are frightened to speak? Because the punishment meted out to me has been pretty bad, but the punishment meted out to women is much, much worse. Every one of us who speaks up is left hanging in the wind by everyone else. We need more people.
My final question to you, and this is the final question: why are you speaking to me about this? You've said this is one of the first times you've spoken out. Why now?
No one asks me, Steve. Like I've never been
thanks
asked.
Very much.
No, but like I've never been asked to share my opinion. Basically, again, because I've been cast as a evil influence or whatever people call me, other people are not allowed to speak to me. So I don't go. I'm never on podcasts. I'm never on anything because those people know that they will be targeted if they speak to me.
Wow.
So
the Nolan show's targeted quite often, and we don't ban anybody, and we seek to give everybody a platform. And it's been a pleasure.
Even people like me.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Graham.
Thanks,
and I hope those who disagree with you have their voice heard, but I hope you equally have your voice heard, Graham, and hopefully I've done a bit of that tonight with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Really appreciate it.